This photo right here shows everything that Man City got wrong today and everything Man United did well, which ultimately cost Man City the FA Cup in a pretty a bit of a surprising result. I don't think any of us really would have expected Man United to win today, but nonetheless, they did a really good job at pretty much breaking apart Man City, a side that we never normally see get broken apart like how they did today. And fair play to Ten Hag and his tactics. I mean, he set his Man United up team really well. And I'm actually going to go straight in, and I want to show you the average positions for the first half for both teams. So this is how the pitch looked. This is their average positions. And for the eagle-eyed viewers that are watching right now, you will notice immediately a big talking area or a big problem, and that is this area here. All the space on that side of the pitch in Man City's half that Man United could take advantage of because of the defensive structure of Man City. Now, we know Man City always play in this 3-box-3 formation or this 3-2-5, it depends what you want to call it. They always attack in that kind of formation, and today it was Guardiola that pushed into a left winger position. Sometimes you'll see the actual wingers stay wide, and it'll be one of the midfielders that then push high, and then a centre back will push into midfield. But as I said today, Guardiola pushed really high into that left winger position, as we can see here. And it meant that there was so much vulnerability on this side of the pitch for the likes of Wan-Bissaka when he got past Guardiola, or the likes of Garnacho to get through. And with this formation that Man United went for, they almost went in like a 4-2-4 or a 4-2-2-2, depends on what you want to call it. When the ball did come over this side, it was down to Ake to come across, but then you had Fernandes, McTominay and Rashford all trying to push forward against three centre-backs, and then you're relying on Rodri and Kovacic to come back, and I think Kovacic was a big reason for why Man City actually lost today. And I'll explain a bit more in a minute as to why. But what I found really interesting actually is building out from the back, Man City dropped more into a 2-3 base. Normally they're a 3-2. Today it was Walker out of everyone as well that pushed a bit higher. So when they were building out from the back, say Ortega's got the ball here and Stones and Ake are back, it was Walker that was then going into this kind of position to try and overload the midfield. Problem with that was that if they kicked the ball long or they lost it in this area, say it goes to Amrabat, one long ball and you've got a Rashford versus Walker race going on, and we saw this multiple times today. Now, granted, to be fair, most of the time Walker would come out on top, but it was a very interesting way of playing, because if Rashford had an extra few yards, you'd back Rashford, and that could have led to a really good chance. But thankfully for them today, for Man City's sake, it wasn't actually Rashford's side that caused the problems. But Man United, I think, actually did really well in creating that box in the middle of the pitch, in and out of possession. I thought when we saw Fernandes was starting up top that he'd be dropping into a false nine position almost here, a bit deeper, and maybe McTominay would be over here somewhere, something like that, with Rashford putting a bit more width in. I thought this would then give them this diamond structure in the midfield, but instead, actually, I mean, it's not too different, but instead they went for this kind of shape. And the problem is that Haaland and Foden were pushing both Martinez and Varane, so it meant in the middle of the pitch, if you look in this area here, you've got a 4 versus 3, and I talk about box midfields all the bloody time. Cameron, don't tell me this is another box midfield. I'm afraid it is. I can't deny it. Amrabat, Mainu, McTominay and Fernandes created this box shape. Oh, I'm moving players in the middle of the pitch, and it was too much for De Bruyne, Rodri and Kovacic to deal with. So then Man City had to come up with other solutions, like Foden dropping deeper or Silva coming inside to try and get that extra man in the midfield, and I think it really benefited Man United. Now, going back to that space on the left-hand side of the Man City defence, obviously that's where the first goal came from. That long ball, was it Rashford that played it, I believe? As we saw in that first photo, he plays a long ball across the pitch, and Garnacho is not in acres of space. There is centre backs there trying to cover him, and Guardiola actually did track back on that occasion. So it's a bit ironic that actually it was the one time that Guardiola wasn't really high, is the one time that Man United scored. But it came from an absolute mess up from Ortega and from Guardiola. I think they were both to blame, but personally I don't want Ortega. If that's my team, I don't want Ortega, my goalkeeper, coming out like that when you can see it, your defenders running onto it. I think Guardiola almost tried to ease Garnacho away from the ball and maybe let Ortega come and catch it, but Ortega I don't think needs to rush out like that. I think for him, he needs to be 5 yards deeper. Granted, I know he's come to try and get the ball before Garnacho gets to it, but I mean, in the end, then obviously Guardiola makes the mistake of trying to header it back to Ortega, and it's not a mistake that we normally see the likes of Man City making, but today they did, and it cost them, and they're 1-0 down, but I think we were all probably thinking at that time that Man City will find a way back, like they always do. But no, actually, goal 2 came, and it was a sensational goal, I don't normally think of Man United and really nice worked goals, but it was a really nice play. And it cut Man City open, like in ways that we don't normally see. The Man City defenders were just a bit stuck. And this is where I go back to I think I mentioned it earlier, the problem I had with Kovacic in the first half. And I'm going to show you this photo right here. In this photo, you can see everyone's coming back and the ball's just been cut back and it's come to Fernandes. Now, in my opinion, Kovacic needs to be 5-10 yards deeper here and blocking that pass to Fernandes. Now, similarly, I think everyone's expecting Fernandes to shoot at that point. I actually think it was just brilliant play from Fernandes. It was a sensational pass to put it on a plate for Mainu, who, fair play to him as well, tapped it away really nicely, and I'm really impressed with him. I did a video on why I think he should be in the England squad, actually, so go and check that video out if you want to. But I'm a big fan of Mainu, and on a big pitch like it was today, on a big game, a lot on the line, he turned up. No, he got man of the match for a reason, I think. But that pass from Bruno Fernandes was so good, and it put it on a plate for him. But I do think Kovacic should have stopped that cut back in the first place. And I think that's then probably why Kovacic came off at half-time. He took Kovacic, and I think it was Kovacic and Ake that came on for Akanji and for Doku. And that just meant Doku could go left wing and provide the width instead. And he really stretched that Man United defence. And I think that's what they needed. And I actually think if Doku started this game, Man United might have lost. But it just meant that Man City could get more control in their attacking transitions. They love playing down through the centre of the pitch and playing really intricate passes. It wasn't working with Kovacic. He wasn't really getting good hold of the game in that midfield. So I thought it was actually going to be Silva that moved into the midfield and maybe Doku or Foden out to the right. But Foden just ended up playing in that middle position a bit more, and it worked. So I actually think the change worked pretty well, and it also meant Guardiola wasn't the only person providing width on that left-hand side, so they had a bit more defensive solidity up against Garnacho and sometimes Wan-Bissaka, and then it meant that Stones could push higher as well. So if Guardiola stayed back, it would be Guardiola, Kanji and Walker as the back three. And then, as I said earlier, sometimes they push a centre-back into midfield to create that 3-2 shape instead. And it was either Akanji or Stones, it varied, that would push it into the midfield. And I think that helped Man City quite a lot, actually. I'm surprised it took them so long to get their goal. I thought that they got a good foothold in the game after half-time. Don't get me wrong, they weren't brilliant, but I think they improved a lot. I think Wan-Bissaka struggled a little bit when Doku came on, because Doku just... every time he got the ball, it was a 1-versus-1, and Wan-Bissaka was constantly trying to keep up with them. And I think since he came on, I'll put the stat on now, I think Doku tried the most dribbles this game, and yet he only played 45 minutes, and also he obviously got the goal, but we'll come to that a bit later. As I said, Foden kept coming central as well, and I think he actually really dismantled that Man United defensive structure a little bit, because he was picking up pockets in areas that I don't think they knew whether it was Amrabat or Mainu dropping back to cover him, or whether a centre-back was jumping out to get him, and it a couple times left a few passes for the likes of Alvarez or whatever to get onto. And I'll show you Foden's heat map right now. You can see he played a lot more of a central role compared to sometimes we'll see him play on either wing. And it was an interesting change. I actually don't know if it was the right time to make that kind of change, but I thought Foden played all right today. On the other side, though, I think De Bruyne had one of the worst games I've seen him playing. De Bruyne's stats, and just, you could tell he looked like he was playing in a pile of mud or something. He just was not up to scratch today. His passing was poor. I think if we have a look at the stats for him as well, his pass accuracy was one of the worst. I think he might even have had the worst pass accuracy in the Man City squad up until when he came off. He also lost possession the most out of any other player on the pitch, and by a considerable amount. So I'm not surprised he came off, but I thought Alvarez came on and did a really good job, but also missed a fair few chances that you'd normally back Alvarez to score. And then obviously Doku gets his goal. I mean, I think if they were going to score, it was going to come from him. So much of their attack was then coming down this left-hand side once he'd come on, because he was just controlling the game for Man City, controlling their attacks almost. And no wonder they kept trying to feed it to him. They kept trying to get the ball to Doku so that he could do a 1-versus-1 against Wan-Bissaka, get to the byline or put a cross in or cut it back. But obviously he cut inside, took a shot, and what on earth Onana was doing. He had some really good saves today. I don't think Onana played badly, but my God, you have to be saving that. I sometimes will joke about Onana and say that he's really bad when actually he's had a good game, but he keeps making these kind of mistakes, and it makes me wonder. I mean, obviously Man United are going to stick with him, I assume, as their goalkeeper, but it just worries me. If I was a Man United fan, I'd still be worried about Onana. He's had a good second half to the season, but he's not very convincing, and he nearly cost them today. But thankfully, their defence saw it out. I thought Varane and Martinez were sensational when they played, considering we've not seen either of them in months. I don't even know when the last time they both played together was. Must have been ages ago. I think they played really well. I think they both, as long as they were on the pitch, had a really good game. So I was impressed, and a fair play to Man United. I don't think anyone would have had Man United to win this game. The thing is, I'm a bit sad. And why are you sad, Cameron? The reason is, obviously now, because Man United have won it, they get Europa League football, but they finished 8th in the league. And me being a little old Chelsea fan over here was obviously desperate for the one time I needed Man City to do their job and just turn up and smash Man United, thank you very much, off we go. It's the one time Man City don't show up, obviously, but of course against Chelsea they'll come back and draw 4-4 or something. But regardless, it now means that Chelsea drop down to the Conference League instead of Europa League because Man United got that slot, and it means Newcastle miss out on European football next year. I'm a little bit annoyed because obviously I would have much preferred Europa League over Conference League, but at the same time, European football, it might be a good experience for the players. So I'm not too bad. I think Newcastle fans will be fuming at Man City today, though, so rightfully so. The question I think we're all left wondering then is what's going to happen to Ten Hag. Obviously, there's been reports on Twitter and all over the news that he was getting sacked after today. I think there was a bold assumption that that was going to happen because they were going to lose today. We saw Jim Ratcliffe at the game. Obviously, I think that's left him with a big decision to make. They want to make a change while the likes of Tuchel and Pochettino are on the market. They're going to have to make that decision quickly. Yeah, I don't think it's really the right move. For me personally, as much as I hate Ten Hag and I think he's done a bad job at Man United, I do think he should stay, and that's not because I quite like laughing at Man. Well, it's partly because I quite like laughing at Man United, but I think that he should stay because I see something going there. I think he has a lot of respect with the players, regardless if they're playing well or not. I think he needs time, and I know he's had it. 2 years now? I think he's got 2 trophies in 2 years, and granted 8th in the league's not great, don't get me wrong, the stats are awful, but you look at the defensive changes he's had to make this. I mean, Casemiro at centre-back alongside, like, Cambuala, or alongside Evans, like, how do you expect that to be good? Luke Shaw's been out forever. Who even knows where Tyrell Malacia's gone? You're playing a right-back and left-back for pretty much the entire season. Like, I'm not surprised that it's not been a very good season. I hate Man United, so don't get me wrong, I'd rather keep laughing at them, but I personally don't think sacking Ten Hag is the right thing to do. I think they should keep with him. He's delivering them a trophy with a squad that really should not be winning a trophy. Surely that says enough, but regardless, fair play to Man United. Tough luck Man City, surprisingly, to be fair, and I'm a bit annoyed because of Conference League football, but it is what it is. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you think. Did you predict Man City to win this, or did you predict Man United? If you predicted Man United, then well done. I'm going to be asking you for my next lottery numbers. But other than that, thank you very much for watching. I will see you very soon. And if you want to know how your team did this year in the Premier League, then check out everything we learned on the final day of the season. But until next time, I'll see you very soon.